Picture this. You're walking home from school, minding your own business, when suddenly, someone, twice your size, swings a baseball bat straight at your head. That's exactly what happened to one little girl, and what came next will blow your mind. It was just another ordinary Tuesday afternoon when 8-year-old Maya stepped off her school bus. The sun was shining, birds were chirping, and she was probably thinking about her homework or what's for tea. But as she walked past her neighbor's drive, something horrific was about to unfold. Waiting there was Jake, a 17-year-old lad who towered over her. He wasn't practicing his swing or playing about. He was holding that bat with intent, and in one sickening moment, he brought it crashing down on the side of her head. The sound echoed through the entire street. Maya crumpled to the ground instantly, blood streaming across her bright pink rucksack. Can you imagine witnessing something so brutal? So completely unprovoked? Her father, Marcus, heard the commotion from inside their house. When he rushed outside and saw his little girl lying there, blood pooling around her head, something inside him snapped, but not in the way you might think. Now, here's where things get interesting. Before we dive deeper into this absolutely mental story, I've got to ask, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below, because I love seeing where our community spans across the globe. And if you think what happened next was completely justified, smash that like button and hit subscribe, because this story is about to take some seriously unexpected turns. Marcus knelt beside his daughter, trying to keep calm whilst she sobbed in agony. Her breathing was shallow, erratic. Any parent watching this would have lost their minds completely. But Marcus, he had ice running through his veins. That's when the neighbor emerged. Sharon, the woman who lived in that house, came storming out like she owned the entire street. But instead of rushing to help an injured child, instead of calling 999, she did something absolutely unbelievable. She grabbed her son and pulled him back, then looked straight at Marcus and said the most outrageous thing. "My boy's not violent. Your daughter must have tripped, with a baseball bat embedded in the side of her skull." Marcus felt his composure wavering, but he kept his voice steady. "Sharon," he said, pointing toward the lamppost at the end of the road. "There's a CCTV camera right there. This entire incident is on record. You'd better hope the police arrive before I do something we'll all regret." Sharon actually smirked. Can you believe that? She looked at this man whose child was bleeding on the pavement and smirked. Then she said something that would haunt her for years to come. "You think the old Bill care about some black kid with tomato sauce on her face? Get off my property." Now, Sharon had no idea who she was dealing with. She didn't know Marcus's background. Did you know he'd spent 15 years training federal investigators how to break down liars in interrogation rooms without ever laying a finger on them? She'd just declared war on the wrong family. Marcus straightened up, looked her dead in the eyes, and said with chilling precision, "Sharon, you've just made the biggest mistake of your life." For just a split second, that smug grin flickered. She'd felt something shift in the air, but she wasn't backing down. Not yet. The sirens cut through the tension before the flashing blues even appeared around the corner. 2 patrol cars pulled up sharp, and Marcus waved them over while still cradling his daughter. The first officer, a woman, rushed straight to Maya. Marcus kept his voice professional, though every word took monumental effort. "She's got severe head trauma from a baseball bat. The perpetrator is 17, lives right there, and his mother's been covering for him since it happened." That was Sharon's cue to perform. She marched toward the officers like she was auditioning for EastEnders. "He didn't do anything," she bellowed. "This man's been making threats against my family. He needs arresting." The male officer turned to her sharply. "Madam, we haven't even begun our investigation." "Well, start with me then," Sharon snapped back. "I'm the head of this residents' association. I've pressed charges for disturbing the peace before." The officer raised an eyebrow. "That's not a legal authority, madam," but Marcus was already reaching into his jacket. He pulled out a USB drive and placed it firmly in the female officer's palm. "Here's the footage," he said calmly. "The street camera caught everything. Her son striking my daughter without any provocation whatsoever. I accessed it wirelessly before you arrived." Sharon lunged forward, trying to snatch it back. "You're not even allowed to access those cameras." The officer stepped back. "Madam, those are council property. If he accessed them legally, that's none of your concern. Step back or you'll be detained for obstruction." For the first time, cracks appeared in Sharon's armor. Her eyes widened slightly, uncertainty creeping in. But she wasn't finished yet. Her face lit up as though she'd remembered her trump card. She whipped out her mobile, grinning. "Right then. Want to play games? I'll call my cousin. He's a sergeant with the Met. Let's see what he thinks when he gets here." Marcus didn't even blink. His response was swift and razor-sharp. "Brilliant. Maybe he and I can compare warrant cards." Sharon froze completely. The male officer's attention shifted immediately. "You job?" Marcus reached back into his jacket and produced an old leather wallet. The federal emblem pressed into it was unmistakable. "Retired Federal Investigation Division," he said evenly. I trained half the sergeants in this borough. The color drained from Sharon's face instantly. For the first time since this nightmare began, she was speechless. The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus noticed her hands shaking now, the tiniest tremor of fear breaking through her facade. Behind the glass door, her son, who'd been watching, disappeared from view completely.
The female officer handed the USB to her colleague, who walked it back to review the footage. Sharon, scrambling for any semblance of control, completely changed her tune. "Look," she said, her voice almost pleading now. "Maybe it was just an accident. Kids mess about sometimes. No need to ruin a lad's future over a misunderstanding." That word misunderstanding set Marcus off. He turned to face her, his stare ice cold. "A misunderstanding is when someone spills tea on the carpet," he said slowly. "Not when your son cracks an 8-year-old skull with a cricket bat. You've lied, covered up, and tried to manipulate the police since this started." Sharon flinched, taking a half step back. "It's not like that," she began, but was cut off when the male officer returned, his expression grim. "I've reviewed the footage," he said firmly. "It clearly shows your son waiting on the pavement with the bat. The girl walks past, says nothing to him, and he strikes her full force in the head. It's no provocation whatsoever." Sharon's eyes darted about wildly, but he's got ADHD. He didn't mean it. The officer's tone hardened. "This isn't a school detention we're discussing. This is grievous bodily harm with intent. And since you've interfered with our investigation, we'll be adding obstruction charges." At that moment, Jake was let out in handcuffs, his head hung in shame, cheeks burning red. He couldn't meet anyone's gaze. Sharon tried pushing past the officers, but the female constable raised her hand like a stop sign. "Interfere again," she said coldly, "and you're nicked too." Sharon's panic reached fever pitch. She threw her head back and screamed, her voice raw and desperate. "This is racist. He's targeting us because we're white." The entire street fell silent. Even the traffic seemed to pause. Marcus rose slowly, each step toward her measured and deliberate. His voice was low, calm, and absolutely terrifying. "Your son attacked my daughter. She's 8 years old. He's 17. Instead of calling an ambulance, you're standing here playing the race card." Sharon's face twitched violently. But before she could respond, Marcus leaned in just enough for her to hear his next words clearly. "You'd better pray she does and slip into a coma tonight, because if she does, you're not just going to prison. You're going viral first." Sharon's mouth opened, but no sound emerged. Her lips trembled like a broken screen flickering. The neighbors, who'd been whispering among themselves, were now filming openly. Some were already live-streaming the entire scene. The spotlight she'd once controlled now burned straight through her. And then came the breaking point. From behind her, Jake began sobbing, loud, heart-wrenching cries that carried across the entire block. "Ma'am," he wailed, "you said they wouldn't do anything." "You said it was fine." The officers froze. Sharon spun on him, eyes wide with panic. "Shut up. Don't say another bloody word." But Jake's guilt poured out uncontrollably. "You told me to swing the bat before she reached our drive. You said she was just another noisy black kid. Stop talking," Sharon shrieked, lunging toward him. The male officer grabbed her mid-motion and slammed her against the patrol car. "Right, that's it. You're under arrest for obstruction of justice, child endangerment, and interfering with a serious assault investigation. You can't arrest me." Sharon howled, thrashing against the metal. "I run this neighborhood." The officer didn't even blink. "Not anymore. You don't." As he read her rights, she kicked and screamed like a toddler having a tantrum. Not one person stepped in to help her. Not the neighbors. Not even her son, who was being loaded into the back of another patrol car, his face streaked with tears. Marcus sat in the ambulance, Maya's tiny hand clutched in his own. He fought desperately to keep his composure, refusing to let her see him break. She was stable, but needed stitches and brain scans. The paramedic worked with practiced efficiency. By that evening, Sharon was officially processed. Mugshot, fingerprints, the full works. The same woman who once knocked on neighbors' doors with fake violation notices now sat behind bars begging for her one phone call. The local news picked up the story by morning. Headlines spread like wildfire. Residents Association, head and son, arrested after brutal attack on 8-year-old girl. Victim's father was former federal agent. By noon, it had gone completely viral. The footage Marcus provided leaked across social media, Sharon's racist rant, Jake's tearful confession, her deranged denials, all of it plastered across Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. The internet had spoken, and it was not kind. Meanwhile, Maya recovered remarkably well, concussion and stitches, but her spirit remained unbroken. Bright, brave, resilient, within a week, Sharon's world imploded completely. A repossession notice appeared on her front door. Investigators discovered she'd been embezzling Residents Association funds for years. Holidays, spa treatments, even Jake's expensive therapy sessions, all paid for with money meant for communal maintenance. Her title was stripped, accounts frozen. The very neighbors she'd bullied with petty fines voted unanimously to dissolve the association entirely. The kingdom she'd built through fear crumbled in days. In court, Jake admitted his guilt. Juvenile detention, mandatory counseling, supervised community service. The judge reminded him bluntly that attacking a child wasn't messing about. It was attempted murder. Sharon's case was far worse. Obstruction of justice, child endangerment, fraud, inciting racial hatred. Her barrister tried everything, please. Excuses crocodile tears. But the public had seen too much. The video was undeniable. Before sentencing, the judge asked Marcus if he wished to speak, rose slowly, eyes locked on Sharon as she trembled at the defendant's table. "You didn't just hurt my daughter," Marcus said firmly. "You weaponized fear, power, and prejudice. But you forgot something crucial. Real power doesn't scream and shout. Real power waits patiently. And then it destroys you completely." The courtroom fell silent. Sharon broke down sobbing as the judge delivered her sentence. 5 years in prison, no possibility of early release. As the guard led her away, she glanced back once, eyes hollow, searching for sympathy that simply wasn't there. Marcus didn't flinch, stood firm, his daughter's safety his only concern. Outside the courthouse, Maya slipped her hand into his and whispered, "Daddy, is the nasty lady going away forever?" Marcus smiled gently. "No, sweetheart. Just long enough for her to understand what forever almost looked like." Together, they walked into the sunshine, whole, free, and safe at last. And if you believe bullies who hide behind fake authority should always face justice in the end, absolutely smash that like button and subscribe to our channel. Because real justice is unjust about courtrooms and sentences. It's about protecting families and exposing lies wherever they hide. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.